Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Greetings on this beautiful Thursday evening. Welcome to all those that have joining us and have been supporting us throughout. And we're entering another phase of change. As we anticipated, there are changes going on in the economy that are likely to affect most of us. So there are changes in security, but also a great moment to learn something, a profound moment, in fact. And today I want to talk about okay, so you know how to meditate. Very good. It's a great thing. It's a great tool. So what? Where do we go from here? What comes beyond this? And today I want to talk to you about something that is so obvious that we fail to recognize it. And there are three states to this. The first is to know that it exists. Then you are able to know for yourself. So first is the finger pointing at the moon. It's telling you the direction. Have a look at this, see what's going on. And then through your own observation and experience, because the basis of all your life value is to do with your experience. And your experience takes place within you to do with the mind. And because within modern science there is very little understanding of the mind, the best understanding of the mind comes from the East, whether it's Taoism. There are different schools, and all those schools are a way of one to realize, to know their essential self, their source. What is it that you're about? So I asked this question a while back. What is the point of your life? So what do you reckon is the point of your life? And in asking this question, we have to then question what is of value to our life, because life is extremely precious. Because if it wasn't precious, we wouldn't be in a state where we were witnessing people freaking out, wearing masks, being aggressive with each other, socially isolated, etc., because they are afraid. They are afraid to lose their life. So if you say they're afraid to get COVID, well, what's the underlying reason? Well, they don't want to die. So we're all cling to life. We all cling to life. This clinging to life is only possible if you have an ego, a home. So this is where the nature of the mind becomes really important, to know what you are. What you are. So you realize, okay, so there's this thing called the mind, and this is who I have assumed to be my identity. But actually, there is awareness that can become aware of this. So that's your mindfulness, right? Now, if we recognize where I hope to be kind of directing, then this allows suffering and non-suffering, dukh and sukh. This allows pain and pleasure to be seen as a whole and not one or the other. Because as we go through change, we begin to experience the impact of those changes, including, for example, very tangible ones, people losing their jobs or their jobs being under threat. So obviously, this creates a level of concern. So that concern becomes your anxiety. That anxiety then has an impact on you, but it's a real issue that's going on. So it's not that you have anxiety as an issue, but it is the circumstances are real for you to feel anxious, because your anxiety is asking you, hey, what are you going to do? Are you prepared? So in this moment, we have a profound opportunity to recognize something that Guru Nanak describes as Hukam. Now, what is Hukam? Hukam is something that happens beyond you. You're not the doer. Okay? That which is the unfolding, balancing, directional change that we witness in everything. So let me explain that again. So Hukam is let you witness is that the command, the direction, which direction things are evolving in, and the fact that they are changing. Darwin only looked at evolution from a physical perspective, but the worldview of those people who have a direct experience of consciousness have looked at the evolution of our mind, our sense of self, our ego. So when we are egoic in our space, it is always self-preservation. We're always looking for self-preservation. And in that self preservation, we want pleasure, we want safety, we want security. And why? Because we're ignorant. We're actually ignorant that this egoic sense of self doesn't see the world and existence and experience as a whole. It's divided. And that division takes place because that's the nature of the mind, but we can look at that in another way. So, hukam. Hukam is the unfolding, ever present moment of now that has a direction, meaning it has an order of change, and there is a purpose in that. So the flower doesn't just flower for the sake of being a flower. The flower is there for the purpose of becoming a fruit, and the fruit is there for the purpose of becoming the seeds, and the seed is there in or the purpose of regerminating and becoming the plant. And the plant is there to give note to the flowers and so on and so forth. So this order is hukam. Your all form, including yourself, hukami hoye akar, all form comes out of emptiness. Think about yourself. Think about yourself. Where did you begin? Where did you begin? Did you begin in your mother's cell? Or did you begin in your grandmother when your grandmother was carrying your mother, which had the cell of you, your ovum cell, in her? Where do you go? Where did you begin? And you will notice that not are you able to identify where you began. And yes, we can have many theories, but theories are just normally a worldview that's been put out. And theory doesn't mean a truth, right? Theory is a hypothesis. And Newton's theory have then been superseded by Einstein, which have been superseded by Hawkins, and so on and so forth. It's just an evolution. It's a thinking mind. This is beyond the thinking mind, because the thinking mind can only know it's thinking if there is awareness that knows that it is thinking, if that makes sense. So, hukam. Hukam is how existence creates itself from itself. Saibang. It creates itself from itself. It's like a fractal. What does a fractal mean? It means that you have a pattern, and out of that, the same pattern emerges, and the same pattern emerges. It doesn't matter whether you go outwards or inwards. It always represents the same shape. And you can see many fractals in life around you. You are a fractal. I am a fractal. In fact, we are not just fractals, but we are frequencies that are they create themselves. So if you are in pain, you can exaggerate that by creating it yourself, meaning you can dwell on it without finding a solution. So what is hukam? Hukam is the unfolding nature of this present moment, moment by moment, which has a direction and which has an order. It has a purpose behind it, whichever way it's falling. So your pain, my pain, our suffering is there in order to bring out of that suffering something that we learn, which allows us to transcend it. Therefore, suffering and the solution to suffering are the same thing. The key and the lock, they're the same thing. They're the whole. That's what you are, and that's what all is. So in the present moment, there is significant shift in perception, but also the economy, etc., etc. Now, I want to ask you a question. How much control do you really have? How much control do you have, say, for example, on your body? Can you stop it aging? How much control do you have on your well being? How much actual control do you have on your well being? Yes, you may be COVID free, but you may be freaked out, right? So inside, you may be panicking, fearful, anxious. On the outside, you've got your masks and you do, whatever you do. But inside, it may have a whole different process going on. It's important to recognize that if we begin to see life in this continuous process where you have suffering and then out of it comes it's a solution and we see it as a whole, then we become immersed, we begin to merge in the present moment. What's the point of being present to the moment? What's the point of it? So you're a bit chilled out. So what? Is that what it's all about? No. The next step is to recognize the nature of your experience. So we've all been looking at the stillness and the silence. Now, from that perspective of stillness and silence, we begin to observe that which is around us. So we go in through the movement of meditation into the present moment. We notice the nature of our experience. Yes, that's our experience in the present moment. We're chilled, we're aware, etc., etc. But out of that now emerges the next step. And the next step is observing the nature of that which you are immersed in, to begin to note. And as you begin to note it, you will begin to recognize certain things. So, first we accept that yes, this could be possible, that this whole universe, existence, is actually doing this whole thing in a cyclic way and in an intelligent way. We can accept that's a possibility. Then we begin to recognize it. We see it around us, we see it within us, we see it all around us, and we begin to notice, hey, guess what? Not is just suffering and non-suffering together whole, but life or birth and death are two sides of the same coin. One doesn't need to freak out. You don't need to freak out. In fact, by knowing that, we are less likely to cling to our life and therefore less likely to struggle. Of course, we are intelligent enough. We are intelligent enough to take precautions, but we are also intelligent to accept and to know that life and death, I do not beat my heart. My heart beats by itself. Every single cell in my body operates, lives, and dies by itself. The thoughts that may come in my mind or not, many times come by themselves. The weather that you are witnessing outside comes by itself. Yes, you may manipulate it a little bit here, a little bit there, but you can't convert rain into dust. It still rains. So what I'm saying to you is, if we look around us, we will begin to recognize this imperative that is this creative moment of now that is continuously unfolding. And knowing this unfolding, so we have accepted it, we have recognized it. Manya, to accept. Okay, I accept it. Bujya, Pachanya, to recognize it, to realize it, and then to merge within it. that you become part of the whole. Spirituality is nothing about greater than this, the dissolving of the sense of self, not through your actions, but through your being. And through your being is that once you recognize this divine imperative, once you recognize that it's a process of balance, it's always balancing, it's always going towards balance. Doesn't matter what it is, it's always going towards balance. We are now moving into that very live balancing of our values, balancing of life, but also the realization, my friends, you are not in control. You are not in control. You never have been. It's been an illusion. And you are not in control. And yes, that freaks the ego out a little bit because the ego likes security and control. And this is the difference. The difference is between those who are manmuks, those who are refused, those who are blinded in the mind, think they have control. Those who realize that actually there is a bigger emergent, ever emerging existence which I am part of. I may have some possibility to influence this emergence, but I certainly don't have control because I don't even have control of myself. I don't even have control because if you have that much control, then why don't ill people make themselves better? So, yes, there is a point at which we can co-create and we can make many things and we can go through spontaneous healing. We can go through all sorts of changes that we can bring to our body through knowing how to operate from this process of consciousness and awareness, how to process. And this is something that can't be really shared over YouTube. It's something that has to be developed over time. So what am I saying to you? I'm saying to you, look, meditation is one step. It's opening the door. Once you've opened the door, what do you see? Well, you begin to recognize this ever-present moment that you are embedded in, and the fact that all change that is going around you is happening. It's happening by itself. And if we can recognize this, our ego will dissolve. You don't need to fight your ego. This idea of killing your ego and all that, it's just bullshit. You don't want to go down that. You don't want to go down. You don't want to fight with yourself. You want to recognize existence for what it is. The ego automatically finds its place. It becomes modified, and it's a whole different relationship between what I would say you and existence. And this word is hukam. And through this, we then realize there's no need to worry. We realize that actually this existence, actually, look, if you weren't needed, you wouldn't be here. That's the bottom line. Everything has a purpose. Whether you know it or not, it doesn't matter. But everything has a purpose. The bee doesn't, one day think, oh, my purpose is to pollinate. The bee is to just be a bee. And in being a bee, it does the job of a bee. The same is true for you or me. Just be what you are. And if you can be what you are rather than trying to be what you're not, guess what? You will merge, you will make your life easier. And we are going through a change. As we said to you months ago, this is a global change that is bringing balance and some understanding, some reverence for your life, some appreciation. No, you are not in control. Some appreciation that actually, you know what? If I hand over to this emerging universe, if I hand my responsibility to Hukam, if I hand, meaning if I do not wish to control, I allow existence to know what it needs to do with me, because existence is the cause of me being who I am. You are all, we all are part of the conditioning that we're in. Existence is what it is. So either you recognize this and become part of it, or you remain separate from it And you know what? Struggle along the way. And in that, we will find that you will need to sooner or later realize actually it may be okay to enjoy the ride, to find joy in the change, and not to struggle with the anxiety. If we realize that tomorrow's exist, I always look at it from a perspective of a mother. A mother has milk before she gives birth. Their existence provides you what you need before you need it, provided you have trust in the moment of now. So you're not trusting anyone else, you're not trusting anything, you're trusting the moment of now. It will always lead you what's right. So today we will go and we will try and look at it from that perspective and see how